Hello everyone. This is Anime Octopus, and welcome to the channel. Today's fanfiction explores an intense and imaginative crossover idea: what if Naruko became Upper Moon Zero? A concept that reshapes power, destiny, and the very balance between humanity and demons. Disclaimer: this content is created purely for entertainment and discussion. I do not own any anime footage used in the videos. All rights belong to their respective creators and copyright holders. Now, let's begin. A soft wind moved through the village on the night of the 10th of October, carrying with it a feeling that something important was about to change. High above, the moon shone brightly, as if watching over everything below. Far from the quiet rooftops, a powerful presence stirred. The great Kyubi no Kitsune, a being of immense energy, had been released from its previous host, Kushina Namikaze. The moment was filled not with chaos, but with urgency, as Minato Namikaze stepped forward, determined to protect the village and his family. In his arms rested a tiny child with soft golden hair and bright, curious eyes. Though she was only a newborn, there was something special about her, a quiet strength that even Minato could feel. He looked down at her gently. "I am sorry, little one," he whispered. "I wish there had been another way." He held her close for just a moment longer before continuing, his voice steady but kind. "Your name is Naruko. You will grow strong, and I believe you will bring light where it is needed most." With great care and a heart full of hope, Minato used a powerful sealing technique. The Kyubi's energy was not destroyed, but carefully placed within Naruko, where it would rest safely. A small part of Minato's own spirit stayed behind as well, like a quiet guardian watching over her. The night grew still once more. Naruko grew up surrounded by the sights and sounds of the village, rustling leaves, laughter in the streets, and the distant calls of training shinobi. But her life was not always easy. Some people did not understand her, and their confusion sometimes made them distant or unkind. Even so, Naruko chose a different path. She spent her days exploring hidden corners of the village, talking to animals, and watching the clouds drift by. She found comfort in small things: a warm bowl of ramen, the kindness of a few caring people, and the steady belief that things could get better. On the eve of her 7th birthday, Naruko sat quietly on a rooftop, looking up at the moon. "I wonder what tomorrow will be like," she said softly. A gentle glow seemed to shimmer around her for just a moment, like moonlight dancing on water. Naruko blinked in surprise, placing a hand over her chest. What was that? She wondered. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Instead of fear, she felt something warm and steady inside her, like a quiet voice reminding her that she was not alone. Naruko smiled. "Whatever it is," she said, "I'll figure it out." Over time, Naruko began to discover that she had a unique ability. When she focused, shimmering shapes of light would appear around her, soft, glowing forms that felt like they were there to protect, not harm. They moved gently, like guardians made of moonlight. She didn't fully understand it yet, but she knew one thing for certain. This power was hers. And she would use it to help others. There were a few people in the village who saw Naruko for who she truly was. Nico, Itachi, Kuma, and Okami were among them. They spoke kindly to her, encouraged her, and reminded her that she mattered. One evening, Nico sat beside her and smiled. "Happy birthday, Naruko." Naruko's eyes lit up. "Thank you." "It may not always feel like it," Nico said gently, "but you're growing into someone truly special." Naruko looked down for a moment, then back up at the moon. "I want to protect people," she said. "I want to make this village a place where everyone feels safe and happy." Nico nodded. "And you will." From that day on, Naruko made a promise to herself. No matter how difficult things became, she would never let sadness define her. She would learn, grow, and shine in her own way. And one day, she would become someone the entire village could look up to, not because of power, but because of her kindness, her courage, and her unwavering heart. Under the gentle glow of the moon, Naruko smiled, ready for whatever adventures lay ahead. In the peaceful village from the world of Naruto, a young girl named Naruko sat quietly by her window, watching the stars twinkle like tiny lanterns in the sky. She had always felt a little different from the others, but deep inside, she believed that her uniqueness was something special. Earlier that day, the wise Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi, had made an important decision. He trusted two kind and skilled guardians, Nico and Okami, to look after Naruko and guide her as she grew. They promised to help her learn, train, and discover her strengths. That night, Naruko looked at her reflection and whispered, I wonder what makes me who I am. Suddenly, a gentle voice echoed around her, warm and calm. I can help you understand. Naruko blinked, and the world around her shifted into a beautiful dreamlike place, a peaceful forest with soft grass, glowing fireflies, and a quiet lake that reflected the moon. Standing nearby was a graceful fox spirit with 9 shimmering tails. But instead of being frightening, she had kind eyes and a comforting presence. Hello, Naruko, the fox said softly. My name is Tomomi. Naruko tilted her head. Are you part of me? Tomomi smiled. Yes. I've been with you all along. And you have a special gift, a power that connects light and shadow, imagination and strength. Naruko's eyes sparkled. Does that mean I can create things? Exactly, Tomomi replied. Your heart shapes your world. Naruko closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, the forest became even brighter. A cozy little cottage appeared near the lake, and flowers bloomed in every color. Tomomi looked around in amazement. You made this? Naruko giggled. It feels nice. Like home. The two sat together by the water, talking and laughing. Naruko realized that she wasn't alone, she never had been. The next morning, Naruko moved into her new home with Nico and Okami. They were patient teachers who showed her how to focus, balance, and believe in herself. Instead of rushing, they encouraged her to enjoy every step of learning. Soon, Naruko joined the academy. She walked into the classroom with quiet confidence. Some students were loud, some shy, and some curious, but Naruko simply smiled and took her seat by the window. When it was her turn to introduce herself, she stood up and said clearly, My name is Naruko. I like learning new things, helping others, and watching the stars. I don't like when people feel left out. My dream is to become someone who brings light and hope wherever she goes. The room grew quiet, not because of fear, but because her words felt sincere. As the days passed, Naruko trained with her classmates. She discovered that everyone had their own strengths, just like her. With patience and kindness, she began forming friendships. One day during practice, she worked with Shino. They moved carefully, learning from each other step by step. You're very thoughtful, Shino said. Naruko smiled. And you're very observant. We make a good team. High above, the clouds drifted peacefully. Naruko looked up and thought, maybe being different just means I have my own path to follow. And with Tomomi by her side, kind teachers guiding her, and new friends around her, Naruko's journey had only just begun, a journey filled with discovery, friendship, and the courage to shine in her own unique way. Shino raised an eyebrow at Naruko's question and replied, but the sensei's. Naruko gently interrupted, her voice calm but thoughtful. A true shinobi uses everything she has learned to succeed. There are many honorable ninja in the world, and they try their best to do what is right. But a wise ninja also understands every skill she possesses and when to use it. Don't worry about the sensei's, I'll speak with them. Shino hesitated for a moment, then nodded. From his sleeves, his kikaiku slowly appeared, buzzing softly like tiny, curious friends. Naruko watched them with bright interest. So the Aburame clan lives in harmony with kikaiku, she said, tilting her head. That's amazing. Are there other clans like yours? Yes, Shino replied. The Kamizuru clan from Iwagakure works with bees in a similar way. Naruko smiled warmly. That's wonderful. It's a shame some children are afraid of you because of it. I think your abilities are special, Shino. Just remember, your strength isn't only your clan's gift. It's also your heart, your mind, and your choices. Before Shino could respond, a soft shimmer like glass appeared in front of Naruko. She whispered, Koi. Shino guided his kikaiku forward, but they gently stopped, as if meeting an invisible wall. They hovered there, unharmed, simply unable to pass. At that moment, Mizuki-sensei approached, looking concerned. Naruko, Shino, you shouldn't be using advanced techniques during practice. I may have to assign detention. Naruko turned respectfully. Sensei, we were just learning how different abilities work. A ninja should understand her strengths and how to use them responsibly. Isn't that part of our training? Mizuki paused, then adjusted his expression. Well. Yes, that is true. Very thoughtful of you both. Carry on carefully. As he walked away, Shino looked at Naruko with quiet surprise. She gave him a small wink. If you're wondering, she said, my ability helped create that barrier. For a moment, a faint glow surrounded her, like clear, floating shapes that shimmered and vanished. That's my special skill, Naruko explained softly. I call it nothingness. I can shape it to protect, move things, or help me travel quickly. But I don't use it carelessly. Shino nodded. Impressive. Naruko. She smiled. Please, just call me Naruko. I trust you. Why? He asked. Naruko's expression softened. Because I know what it feels like to be seen as different. And I think you understand that too. Later, Iruka-sensei gathered the class. All right everyone, time for a physical challenge. You'll run through this obstacle course. The students took turns, cheering each other on. Naruko ran with determination and joy, remembering all the time she had trained on her own. By the end of the day, she had the highest score, not because she wanted to win, but because she never gave up. As the sun began to set, Naruko walked home, humming quietly to herself. Along the way, Kuma approached her. Naruko, he said gently, the Hokage would like you to attend a meeting with the council. Naruko blinked, then gave a small, curious smile. All right. Let's go. With a quick movement, they arrived at the meeting hall. Naruko stepped inside calmly. Good evening. You wanted to see me? The council members looked at her with mixed expressions. One of them spoke. We have heard that you possess a unique ability. Naruko folded her hands politely. Yes, I do. Why were we not informed? Another asked. Naruko answered honestly. Because I was still learning about it myself. And I wanted to understand it before sharing. The room grew quiet. Then Naruko continued, her voice steady but kind. I know I'm different. But I'm also a part of this village. I want to grow, learn, and help in my own way. All I ask is to be treated fairly, like any other student. Some of the shinobi leaders nodded thoughtfully. Hyashi spoke first. That is a reasonable request. Others followed, agreeing that Naruko deserved respect and support. Naruko gave a small bow. Thank you. I'll do my best to honor that trust. As the meeting ended, she stepped outside under the evening sky. The stars had begun to appear, twinkling softly. She looked up at them and smiled. No matter what challenges came her way, Naruko knew one thing for certain. She would face them with courage, kindness, and the belief that everyone, no matter how different, had a place where they belonged. The next day, Naruko returned to the academy, her golden hair catching the morning light as she walked through the gates. The students were already whispering in groups, their voices filled with worry and curiosity. Did you hear what happened to the Uchiha family? One student asked softly. I heard something serious happened, another replied. Is Sasuke okay? I think he's been resting at home. I'm not sure if she'll come to class today. Naruko listened quietly as she walked to her seat. She didn't join in the chatter, but she felt a small knot of concern in her chest. She looked up at the sky for a moment, watching a bird glide past, and then let out a slow breath. Soon, everyone settled into their seats. Their teacher, Iruka, clapped his hands gently. All right, class, let's begin. The door slid open. Sasuke Uchiha stepped inside. Her posture was straight, her expression calm but distant. Beside her stood her mother, Mikado, offering a reassuring smile before leaving. The classroom grew quiet. Welcome back, Sasuke, Iruka said kindly. Sasuke gave a small nod. Thank you. Go ahead and take your seat. She walked to her desk and sat down, folding her hands neatly. There was a quiet strength about her, and though her smile was gone, there was something steady in her eyes. Now then, Iruka continued, who can tell me about the first Hokage? By lunchtime, the earlier whispers had softened into thoughtful silence. Naruko sat under her favorite tree, opening her bento. The gentle breeze rustled the leaves above her, making the sunlight dance across the ground. As she ate, she heard a soft sniffle nearby. Naruko turned her head and spotted Tenten sitting a short distance away, wiping her eyes quickly. Naruko stood and walked over. Hey, Bun Bun, she said gently, crouching beside her. What's wrong? Tenten blinked in surprise. Naruko. I didn't see you there. Naruko smiled. You don't usually hide from me. So tell me, what happened? Tenten hesitated, then looked down at her hands. Some of the students in my class. They don't like that I'm good with tools. They say it's strange. Naruko tilted her head thoughtfully. Strange? Sounds more like special to me. Tenten looked up. Naruko continued, her voice calm and steady. Everyone has something they're good at. If you shine in your own way, that's something to be proud of. Not something to hide. Tenten's expression softened into a small smile. You always know what to say. Naruko grinned. Not always. But I try. They sat together for a moment, enjoying the quiet. So, Tenten added, you're in the academy now? Yeah, Naruko said. It's been interesting. But I'm learning a lot. Tenten nodded. I'm glad. A distant call echoed across the yard. That's my class, Tenten said, standing up. I'll see you later, Naruko. Naruko waved. See you, Mouse-chan. Tenten laughed as she walked away. You still haven't dropped that nickname. Dash. Later that afternoon, the class gathered outside for practice. Mizuki stood at the front, holding a set of training tools. All right, everyone, he said, we'll be practicing our aim today. Sasuke, you're first. Sasuke stepped forward, took a breath, and carefully threw each tool. One by one, they landed precisely on the target. Excellent work, Mizuki said. Next, other students took their turns, each doing their best. Finally, it was Naruko's turn. She picked up the tools, weighing them in her hands. Then she focused, her blue eyes steady. One throw. Then another. Each one struck the center of the target. The class murmured in surprise. Very well done, Naruko, Mizuki said. Naruko gave a small nod and stepped back. Dash. As the day came to an end, Naruko returned to her quiet spot beneath the cherry blossom tree. Petals drifted gently around her as she leaned back, enjoying the peaceful moment. Footsteps approached. She opened one eye to see Sasuke standing nearby. What do you want, Uchiha? Naruko asked, her tone calm. Sasuke crossed her arms. You're skilled, she said. I want to understand how. Naruko blinked, then smiled slightly. You could have just asked. Sasuke hesitated, then gave a small nod. Then. Will you train with me? Naruko sat up, brushing a petal from her sleeve. Sure. But only if you promise something. What? That we both get stronger together. Not to compete. But to grow. Sasuke considered this, then extended her hand. Agreed. Naruko took it, her smile bright. Above them, the cherry blossoms continued to fall, soft and steady, as a new friendship quietly began to bloom. What did you say? Naruko whispered, her blue eyes narrowing slightly. The other student crossed his arms and muttered something unkind under his breath, but Naruko didn't respond with anger. Instead, she took a slow breath and looked past him, toward the old cherry blossom tree at the edge of the training yard. That tree had become a quiet place for her. A place where she could think. And today, she wasn't thinking about herself. She was thinking about Ayane. Ayane Uchiha was different. Not in a way that made her less, but in a way that made others unsure how to treat her. Her eyes, when she awakened her special ability, shimmered with unusual colors that no one had seen before. Instead of curiosity, many students reacted with confusion or distance. Naruko didn't like that. She remembered the first time she met Ayane, alone under that same cherry tree, trying very hard not to cry while others whispered nearby. Naruko had sat beside her without saying anything at first. Then she smiled. And that was how their friendship began. Dash. Later that day, during practice, students were asked to pair up. I'll switch partners, Naruko said calmly. Her voice wasn't loud, but it was steady. The others exchanged glances, surprised. Naruko wasn't known for stepping into tense situations, but today felt different. When the practice began, Naruko stood across from her opponent. She moved lightly on her feet, focused and quiet. Instead of rushing forward, she watched carefully, responding with quick, controlled movements. The training match wasn't about winning. It was about learning. With a simple shift of balance and a well-timed step, Naruko gently redirected her opponent's movement, causing him to lose footing and sit down with a surprised expression. There was a brief silence. Then someone clapped. Soon, others joined in. Even the instructors nodded approvingly. Naruko offered her hand to help her opponent up. No hard feelings, she said with a small smile. Dash. From the sidelines, Ayane watched quietly. For the first time in a long while, she smiled too. Dash. After training, Naruko returned to the cherry tree, stretching her arms behind her head. You didn't have to do that, Ayane said as she approached. Naruko shrugged lightly. Maybe not. But I wanted to. There was a pause. Then Naruko added, softer this time, no one deserves to feel alone. Ayane looked at her, surprised. Then she nodded. Dash. Years passed, and Naruko grew stronger, not just in skill, but in heart. She trained hard, learned new techniques, and discovered unique abilities that made her stand out in her own way. But no matter how much she improved, one thing never changed. She always made space for others. Dash. On the day of the final test at the academy, Naruko stepped forward confidently. Please perform the assigned technique, the instructor said. Naruko nodded. With focus and calm, she formed the hand signs. In an instant, several perfect copies of her appeared beside her, each one steady and clear. The room filled with impressed murmurs. Well done, the instructor said warmly. You've passed. Naruko grinned. Not because she had succeeded, but because she had come this far without losing who she was. Dash. As she stepped outside, sunlight filtering through the trees, she spotted Ayane waiting for her. Did you pass? Ayane asked. Naruko held up her headband with a bright smile. Ayane's eyes lit up. I knew you would. Naruko laughed. Of course I did. And you're next. Together, they walked forward, toward new adventures, stronger friendships, and a future they would shape side by side. Dash. And beneath the cherry blossom tree, petals drifted gently in the wind, as if cheering them on. A gentle, adventurous melody plays in the background. Naruko ran through the forest, her bright eyes focused and determined. The tall trees swayed softly in the breeze, and sunlight danced across the ground like tiny golden stars. She wasn't chasing trouble, she was trying to protect something important. Ahead of her stood Mizuki, who looked worried and unsure. He held a scroll in his hands, glancing around as if he didn't know what to do next. Please stop, Mizuki, Naruko called out, her voice calm but firm. You don't have to do this. We can go back together and fix things. Mizuki hesitated. You don't understand, he said quietly. I thought this was the only way to prove myself. Naruko shook her head and stepped closer, keeping her hands open to show she meant no harm. You don't have to prove anything by running away or making mistakes. Everyone messes up sometimes. What matters is what you do next. Just then, Iruka arrived, slightly out of breath but relieved to see Naruko safe. Naruko. I'm glad you're all right, he said, placing a hand over his heart. Naruko smiled warmly. Iruka-sensei, Mizuki just needs a chance to make things right. Mizuki looked at the two of them, his shoulders slowly relaxing. The forest felt quieter now, as if it, too, was waiting for his decision. After a long pause, he lowered the scroll. I didn't think anyone would understand, he admitted. Iruka stepped forward kindly. You're not alone. You never were. Naruko nodded. Come on. Let's go back together. Mizuki gave a small, uncertain smile and handed over the scroll. The tension in the air faded, replaced by a sense of peace. Later that evening, Naruko returned home, greeted by her friends Hayate and Yugao. They noticed her tired but happy expression. Long day? Yugao asked gently. Naruko stretched and laughed softly. A little. But it turned out okay. Hayate smiled. That sounds like you, finding a good ending. Naruko looked up at the evening sky, where the first stars were beginning to shine. I just think everyone deserves a chance to choose the right path. The next day, she stood before the Hokage and the council. This time, her voice was calm and respectful. I believe things can change, she said. If we trust each other and try to understand, we can make our village a kinder place for everyone. The room grew quiet, her words settling gently like falling leaves. And from that day on, Naruko continued her journey, not just to become strong, but to bring light, hope, and understanding wherever she went. The council room was filled with murmurs, but Naruko stood calmly in the center, her bright eyes scanning the people around her. She wasn't angry, just thoughtful, like someone who had learned many lessons too early. She crossed her arms and gave a small, confident smile. I can tell what some of you are thinking, she said gently. You want me to be someone who only follows orders because of the power I carry. But I'm more than that. I'm my own person. Some members shifted uncomfortably, while others listened more closely. Just then, Kushina stepped forward, her expression tense. Naruko raised her hand, not in defense, but in reassurance. Please, Naruko said softly, this is a place for talking, not fighting. The room quieted. Kushina paused, then slowly returned to her seat. The tension eased, though her eyes still held concern. Nearby, Mikoto spoke quietly, her voice filled with emotion. Naruko. How did you come to know so much about what's been happening? Naruko's expression softened. Are you sure you want to hear it? She asked kindly. Mikoto nodded. Naruko took a breath. I noticed things over time, small details others missed. I didn't say anything before because I wanted to be certain, and because I didn't want to hurt anyone unnecessarily. But I believe honesty matters, especially when it can help people move forward. The room grew still as everyone listened. Mikoto closed her eyes briefly, then nodded again. Thank you for telling me the truth. A few council members began to whisper, unsure what to believe. Naruko turned toward them calmly. You don't have to decide everything right now, she said. Sometimes, understanding takes time. Her words seemed to settle the room. Mikoto looked toward another woman, her expression no longer angry, but firm. We all make choices, she said. Now we must face them and decide what comes next, with fairness. Naruko nodded. What matters most is what we do from here. We can choose kindness, even after mistakes. The Hokage, who had been quietly observing, finally spoke. Naruko. Your perspective is wise. Thank you for reminding us of what truly matters. Naruko smiled slightly. I just don't want anyone to feel alone or misunderstood. Later, Naruko walked into the classroom, where Iruka-sensei sat with bandages, looking a little tired but smiling. Well, Naruko said with a playful grin, you've seen better days. Iruka chuckled. I suppose I have. But, thanks to you, things didn't get worse. I appreciate your help. Naruko shrugged lightly. That's what friends are for. Iruka nodded warmly. Still, it surprised me. Someone I trusted made a poor choice. Naruko leaned against a desk. People can make mistakes when they feel overlooked or hurt. It doesn't make it right, but it helps to understand why. Iruka smiled. You've grown a lot, Naruko. She scratched the back of her head. Maybe a little. Soon, the classroom filled with excited students, chatting about becoming official ninja. Iruka stood up. All right everyone, settle down. It's time to announce your teams. Naruko listened quietly, her eyes shining with curiosity about what the future would bring. No matter what challenges came next, she knew one thing for certain. She would face them as herself, kind, strong, and determined to protect others in her own way. The classroom buzzed with voices, but something important had quietly shifted, because Naruto was no longer Naruto. She was Naruko. And though many things around her stayed the same, the desks, the chatter, the curious glances, there was something softer, steadier about her presence. Naruko Uzumaki sat by the window, golden light brushing across her hair as she gazed outside, thoughtful and calm. When Tokiko approached her, Naruko listened with a guarded expression. Her words were firm, but not sharp, more like a door that had been closed for a long time, not out of anger, but out of caution. I prefer to keep to myself, Naruko said quietly, her voice steady. It's easier that way. Tokiko hesitated, then gave a small nod. I understand. But I'd still like the chance to be your teammate. Naruko didn't answer right away. Instead, she looked out the window again, watching a bird glide through the sky. Maybe, she said at last, we'll see. Tokiko returned to her seat, not frightened, but thoughtful. Nearby, Tomomi spoke gently within Naruko's mind, like a warm whisper. Sometimes, people surprise you. Naruko gave the faintest smile. Sometimes, she agreed. When Sakura called out from across the room, her voice loud and dramatic as ever, Naruko simply sighed. I didn't say anything important, she replied calmly. You don't need to worry. Sasuke glanced over, curious, while Tokiko sat quietly, deep in thought. Before anything else could be said, the door slid open again. Anko Mitarashi entered with her usual confident energy. Rutaxan, she called. Naruko stood. That name, Rutaxan, was the one she used to keep her distance from the world. A shield, carefully built. She followed Anko without complaint. Outside, under the open sky, Team 13 gathered for introductions. Anko stretched her arms. Let's keep this simple. Names, likes, dislikes, dreams. Naruko stepped forward when it was her turn. My name is Rutaxan, she said. Then, after a pause, she added softly, but you can call me Naruko. If you earn it. Anko raised an eyebrow but said nothing. I like training, writing, and learning new things, Naruko continued. I also like people who are honest. She folded her arms lightly. I don't like lies or being judged before someone understands me. Anko nodded, listening more closely now. As for my dream. Naruko looked up at the sky again, her expression no longer guarded, but hopeful. I want to find a place where I truly belong. And I want to protect the people who make that place feel like home. There was no darkness in her voice. Only quiet determination. Anko smiled faintly. That's a good dream, kid. Later that evening, Tokiko returned home, her mind still replaying the conversation. She's not what I expected, she admitted softly. Her mother listened, but Tokiko's thoughts were her own now, curious, questioning, growing. At the Hayate residence, Naruko sat with a warm cup of tea, speaking with Yugao. You seem calmer, Yugao noted gently. Naruko smiled a little. I'm trying something new. Oh? Yugao asked. Not pushing everyone away immediately, Naruko said. Just giving things time. Yugao chuckled softly. That sounds like a good start. Naruko leaned back, feeling, for once, not watched, not judged. Just at peace. Elsewhere, Mikoto Uchiha stood at a doorway, preparing to knock. She had questions. Not accusations, just questions. Back inside, Naruko tilted her head slightly. Someone was there. She stood and walked toward the door, her steps quiet but certain. For a moment, she paused. Then, with a small breath, she opened it. And for the first time in a long while, Naruko chose not to hide. Hello, she said gently. A new story had begun, not one of anger or fear, but of understanding, patience, and the slow, meaningful building of trust. Dear YouTube family. This is all for now. If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more. Your support keeps this journey going. Thank you for watching. Regards. Anime Octopus.